President Tony Tan Ken Yam presented the instrument of appointment to the 9 nominated members of parliament on Thursday morning. The 9 NMPs were chosen out of a record 50 applicants and will be sworn in when parliament sits on February 14th. The NMPs and their spouses had the chance to mingle with the president and his wife Mary at a private reception at the Istana after the ceremony. Speaker of Parliament and Chairman of the Selection Committee, Mr. Michael Palmer, was also present at the ceremony. Amongst the 9 NMPs is stage and television actress Janice Cole, who came forward to ensure the arts community would continue to have a voice in Parliament. The 38-year-old was a former civil servant at the National Arts Council and aims to champion the arts in Parliament.
Generally, it would be 3 things. Not so much just issues, but I feel where I can play a role. One is very much as an arts advocate, and that means reiterating that the arts is for everyone and not just for artists or a small group of people or even elitists. It is for everyone, and it is important to everyone. So when we talk about developing the arts and culture, I feel like I need to impress upon Parliament that we are not just planning 20 years ahead, like urban planning, but 100 years ahead. And it is important to Singaporeans. Secondly, I think it's important for me to air in Parliament the needs and challenges of artists and the need for an environment to allow their work to flourish. Finally, the third thing is lending a kind of cultural perspective, a cultural lens to national debate, to national issues. And this could be anything from heritage and the need to preserve and conserve parcels of land or buildings, because it says so much about who we are.
Representing the education sector is 41-year-old Singapore Management University Assistant Law Professor Eugene Tan. Mr. Tan said he will raise issues on preschool, lifelong and tertiary education.
I'm in a way interested in the 2 ends of the spectrum, one being preschool education. And I think that there's a lot that can be done to enable children from disadvantaged homes, to, in a way, not suffer any disadvantage, by virtue of their own backgrounds, So I think it'd be good to see how we can get more of these children to have quality preschool education. And I suppose at the other end of the spectrum really is, how can we as a society nurture the spirit, of lifelong education? I think what we see in Singapore is really that love for degrees. And I think it is important to try to nurture that love for learning. Because I think with that, we become a more critical, more discerning society. And I think it will help us also to deal with the economic challenges that lie ahead.
Out of the 50 applicants, 34 applied as individuals. And from this group, only 36-year-old Mr. Nicholas Fang was picked. The Oxford University graduate is the president of Fencing Singapore and has a master's in philosophy, politics and economics. He is also a director at the Singapore Institute of International Affairs. Mr. Fang wants to place an emphasis on making sports part of the social fabric here and is keen to see the government's long-term vision for sports in Singapore. DBS Bank Group Head of Wealth Management Ms. Tan Su Shan left the PAP in November to become a nominated MP. Ms. Tan was a PAP member for about 4 or 5 years and an executive committee member of its women's wing for the last 2 years. The 44-year-old was put forward as an NMP candidate by the Singapore Business Federation and wants to be free to express her views without political flavour. The other 5 NMPs are Republic Polytechnic lecturer Faiza Jamal, Singapore Maritime Officers Union Mary Liu, Managing Director of JG Melwani Group Mr. Ramasamy Dinakaran, National Volunteer and Philanthropy Chief Executive Lawrence Lien, and the only NMP who will be starting a second term, Mr. Teo Seong Seng. The NMP scheme began in 1990 to allow for alternative voices in the House. Prominent NMPs in the past include Gerard Ee, who is currently the Public Transport Chairman, and former Miss Singapore Universe Eunice Olsen.